own units, come forward in spite of every conceivable deterrent, come forward, 140,000 of them, although they are still not up to strength, and then find that the government does not take their effort seriously enough even to equip and arm them properly, I marvel at their patriotism. It is a marvel. It is also a glory. But a glory we have no right to profit by, unless we can secure proper and efficient equipment for them. A friend of mine the other day saw a number of persons engaged in peculiar evolutions, genuflections, and gestures in the neighbourhood of London. His curiosity was excited. He wondered whether it was some novel form of gymnastics, or a new religion. There are new religions which are very popular in some countries nowadays. Or whether they were a party of lunatics out for an airing. On approaching closer, he learned that they were a searchlight company of London Territorials, who were doing their exercises as well as they could without having the searchlights. Yet we are told there is no need for a Ministry of Supply. In the manoeuvres of the regular army many of the most important new weapons have to be represented by flags and discs. When we remember how small our land forces are, altogether only a few 100,000 men, it seems incredible that the very flexible industry of Britain, if properly handled, could not supply them with their modest requirements. In Italy, whose industry is so much smaller, whose wealth and credit are a small fraction of this country's, a dictator is able to boast that he has bayonets and equipment for 8 million men. Halve the figure if you like, and the moral remains equally cogent. The army lacks almost every weapon which is required for the latest form of modern war. Where are the anti-tank guns? Where are the short-distance wireless sets? Where the field anti-aircraft guns against low-flying armoured aeroplanes? We want to know how it is that this country, with its enormous motoring and motor bicycling public, is not able to have strong mechanised divisions, both regular and territorial. Surely, when so much of the interest and the taste of our youth is moving in those mechanical channels, and when the horse is receding with the days of chivalry into the past, it ought to be possible to create an army of the size we want, fully up to strength, and mechanised to the highest degree. Look at the tank corps. The tank was a British invention. This idea, which has revolutionised the conditions of modern war, was a British idea forced on the War Office by outsiders. Let me say they would have just as hard work today to force a new idea on it. I speak from what I know. During the war we had almost a monopoly, let alone the leadership, in tank warfare, and for several years afterwards we held the foremost place. To England all eyes were turned. All that has gone now. Nothing has been done in the years that the Locust hath eaten to equip the tank corps with new machines. The medium tank which they possess, which in its day was the best in the world, is now looking obsolete. Not only in numbers, for there we have never tried to compete with other countries, but in quality these British weapons are now surpassed by those of Germany, Russia, Italy, and the United States. All the shell plants and gun plants in the army, apart from the very small peacetime services, are in an elementary stage. A very long period must intervene before any effectual flow of munitions can be expected, even for the small forces of which we dispose. Still, we are told, there is no necessity for a Ministry of Supply, no emergency which should induce us to impinge on the normal course of trade. If we go on like this, and I do not see what power can prevent us from going on like this, some day there may be a terrible reckoning, and those who take the responsibility so entirely upon themselves are either of a hardy disposition or they are incapable of foreseeing the possibilities which may arise. Now I come to the greatest matter of all, the air. We received on Tuesday night from the First Lord of the Admiralty the assurance that there is no foundation whatever for the statement that we are vastly behindhand with our Air Force programme. It is clear from his words that we are behindhand. The only question is, what meaning does the First Lord attach to the word vastly? He also used the expression about the progress of air expansion that it was not unsatisfactory. One does not know what his standard is. His standards change from time to time. In that speech of the 11th of September about the League of Nations there was one standard, and in the Hall of Al Pact there was clearly another. In August last, some of us went in a deputation to the Prime Minister in order to express the anxieties which we felt about national defence, and to make a number of statements which we preferred not to be forced to make in public. I personally made a statement on the state of the Air Force, to the preparation of which I had devoted several weeks, and which, I am sorry to say, took an hour to read. My right honourable friend the Prime Minister listened with his customary exemplary patience. I think I told him beforehand that he is a good listener, and perhaps he will retort that he learned to be when I was his colleague. At any rate, he listened with patience, and that is always something. During the 3 months that have passed since then, I have checked those facts again in the light of current events and later knowledge, and were it not that foreign ears listen to all that is said here, or if we were in secret session, I would repeat my statement here. And even if only one half were true, I am sure the House would consider that a very grave state of emergency existed, and also, I regret to say, a state of things from which a certain suspicion of mismanagement cannot be excluded. I'm not going into any of those details. I make it a rule, as far as I possibly can, to say nothing in this House upon matters which I am not sure are already known to the General Staffs of foreign countries. But there is one statement of very great importance which the Minister for the Coordination of Defence made in his speech on Tuesday. He said, "The process of building up squadrons and forming new training units and skeleton squadrons is familiar to everybody connected with the Air Force. The number of squadrons in present circumstances at home today is 80, and that figure includes 16 auxiliary squadrons, but excludes the Fleet Air Arm, and of course does not include the squadrons abroad." End quote. From that figure, and the reservations by which it was prefaced, it is possible for the House, and also for foreign countries, to deduce pretty accurately the progress of our Air Force expansion. I feel, therefore, at liberty to comment on it. Parliament was promised a total of 71 new squadrons, making a total of 124 squadrons in the Home Defence Force by the 31st of March, 1937. This was thought to be the minimum compatible with our safety. At the end of the last financial year, our strength was 53 squadrons, including auxiliary squadrons. Therefore, in the 32 weeks which have passed since the financial year began, we have added 28 squadrons. That is to say, less than one new squadron each week. In order to make the progress which Parliament was promised, in order to maintain the programme which was put forward as the minimum, we shall have to add 43 squadrons in the remaining 20 weeks, or over 2 squadrons a week. The rate at which new squadrons will have to be formed, from now till the end of March, will have to be nearly 3 times as fast as hitherto. I do not propose to analyse the composition of the 80 squadrons we now have, but the Minister in his speech used a suggestive expression, skeleton squadrons, applying at least to a portion of them. But even if every one of the 80 squadrons had an average strength of 12 aeroplanes, each fitted with war equipment, and the reserves upon which my right honourable friend dwelt,